just before this already really long Double's Opinion starts, I'd just like to say, as you can tell by the length already probably, this is not your standard Double's Opinions, basically because I had no idea, like, anything about anime, really, because I don't watch it, so I decided to get my friend Sovest555 here, who is an anime expert of sorts. So, pretty much it's Sovest555's opinions with Double giving about a sentence at the end. Yeah. Hey guys, Double here, and welcome back to a new Double's Opinions. In this episode, I have a special guest commentator.
Hello, I'm Sovest555, and I suggested today's topic and even offered to co-commentate because, to be honest, Double even admits that he doesn't know too much about the topic, so I offered to help.
Yup. So the topic today is on anime. Basically, we're going to give our opinions on different animes, I guess. Popular ones and obscure ones. So...
Yes.
yeah.
So the first anime that we're going to talk about is Naruto. It's an anime that is that focuses around this one ninja person who lives in a ninja village with a bunch of other ninjas, and they practice, and basically they use ninjutsu, which is basically like hand signals that do magical effects. Well, if I remember, there is ninjutsu, which is just normal, the normal stuff. There's genjutsu, which is like things that affect the mind. Then I forget what the last one is. I think it was like jujitsu, which is more physically based, like hand-to-hand combat and stuff. And basically, the story centers around a ninja, Naruto Uzumaki, who has the demon Nine-Tailed Fox sealed inside him, and there's like multiple demons that are all like this. And pretty much that is, there's random stories that are connected to that every now and then, but pretty much that is what most of the story centers around, the tail demons. There's not much else to really note. Of course, there are some interesting episodes here and there, but past the first series of Naruto, I never got enough interest to watch the sequel series. So this and the second one, I will admit, I'm not quite as overly fluent in, but I have a running knowledge enough to tell you what it's about.
Naruto is actually one of the few animes I've seen that is not based off some video game or toy. And I've only seen one episode of it, though. And basically, all I know is there's some ninja kid in orange running around with some hot chick with pink hair.
Yeah, I mean, what I said basically gives more of an overall understanding of how the series works, but even so, it's just touching the surface of what it's about, which... Okay, so anyways, since I'm out of what I have to say about that, let's move on to the next one, Bleach. Anyways, what that is about is it's a general action anime, which it has been running for a while, and I think it's entering its final season. Basically what it's about is Shinigami, or Grim Reapers by English translation, even though technically it means death god. Basically, they hunt down these evil spirits known as hollows, and to basically keep the world at balance. And basically, they wield these bullets called Zanpak, and I forget what the actual Japanese is for it, but the translation is the soul-cutting sword. That it has multiple. It basically is a sword that can do awesome things, and even the ultimate form known as the Bankai form. Again, I don't really know too much. I haven't watched Bleach yet. It's on my list of stuff to watch, but I don't know overall storyline of that because there's just so much to get into that I haven't quite understood myself yet. But it's worth covering since it's such a popular anime.
It's probably one of those animes that even people who aren't a big fan of anime know about, as well as Naruto.
Oh yeah! Next, this is an anime that many people know, and you may even know this through Smosh, Death Note. Basically, everyone knows the idea of it. You write a person's name in the Death Note, and unlike in Smosh, basically the rules are you write a person's name in the Death Note, and within like 45 seconds they die of a heart attack unless you specify otherwise. So basically, it focuses around the adventures, quote-unquote, adventures of the anti-hero Light Yagami, who basically tries to use the Death Note to kill all the criminals and make the world a better place. Unfortunately, the police are against him, and like the super detective known as L is also against him. And he also has a different Shinigami following him. And it's quite interesting once you get into it. It's actually a pretty good anime to watch. The actual anime has finished at like 37 episodes, but each episode is very intense and worth watching. And it's definitely within the big... it definitely holds its own among all the really popular ones because it's definitely an anime worth watching. That's all I have to say.
I pretty much have nothing
However,
to say.
Actually, one thing I will say that another person I point out is it's more of a mystery. It's more of a mystery suspense anime. There's not as much action overall. So if you like mysteries, definitely watch Death Note. If you are more of an action person, watch Naruto, Bleach. There are many other ones that can satisfy you. Okay, next. This may sound a bit obscure, but trust me, it's definitely a mainstream anime. Soul Eater. I just finished watching Soul Eater, the first season, and basically the idea is these weapon wielders, basically there are humans that can turn into weapons that are wielded by these other humans called Meisters. And basically they use these weapons, and they're of course in an academy run by the Grim Reaper. And basically use these weapons to hunt down the Kishin, or demon gods. And basically their goal is to hunt down 99 Kishin souls and 1 soul of a witch. Which the witches are extremely powerful. I mean, there's definitely multiple prominent witches in the series that make it interesting. And of course, there's a lot of other aspects like the idea of black blood, that is like blood that corrupts the soul. And there's also the whole idea of like fear and madness versus bravery, which it's like 51 episodes, and it builds towards an interesting climax near the end. Though I have to say, even though that ending was satisfying, just it seemed very in some cases it seemed very tacked on. Like they were saying, "Oh, let's pull this ending out of our asses."
As far as I know, this is one of those.
Basically,
go on.
So should I go on to the next one?
Hold on, someone's knocking. Okay, I'll just say this. As far as I know, Soul Eater was one of those animes that if you lived in Canada, you're pretty much screwed out of watching, because I don't remember it airing on any television station I had, at least. There was that Boinks on Demand thing that aired anime, but I didn't get that. So, yeah.
Okay, and that's pretty much all I have to say about Soul Eater for now. Next is an anime that many people know. It's made by the oh so popular anime company known as Gainax that made weird animes like Panty and Stocking Dead, Fooly Cooly, and Neon Genesis Evangelion. This is an anime known as Tenshin Tara Gurren Lagann, which basically it's a mecha anime that also deals with this very commonly used dystopia tropes. Basically, the first half of the series is basically humans that have been living under the surface for many years, fighting against the surface-dwelling beastmen and the Spiral King Lord Genome to reclaim the surface of the Earth. The second half of the series deals with now, basically, after a 7-year gap, and the humans have now, like, expanded. Like, within 7 years, they've gone from, like, near poverty to an extremely rich nation that is capable of space travel. Within just the span of 7 years. However, when they finally attempt space travel and, like, get 1 million humans on the surface of the Earth, aliens in space start freaking out. Aliens known as the Anti-Spiral, basically humans and a bunch of other races are known as the Spiral race, since they can wield spiral power thanks to their helical DNA, which it's a very complex concept there. So basically, the Anti-Spiral tried to destroy the Earth by crashing the moon into it. Very Zelda-like, but the moon actually ends up being replaced by a spaceship, and then they go into nether space to face the Anti-Spiral. And thus, I mean, the funny thing is, like all Gainax animes, they go very bombast with everything, but, I mean, Gainax is good at climax, but they're horrible at conclusions. I mean, me and many of my friends were pissed at the ending of Gurren Lagann. I mean, after they just beat the main enemy, the main protagonist is the main protagonist's true love, like, right after they get married, since she was an Anti-Spiral too, she dissolves into is no more. Then the main character decides to step down and let everyone else deal with the aftermath, while he decides to go into hermitdom. It was a very annoying ending.
I'd just like to say now the first
Don't
part sounds kind of like the plot of the final Hunger Games book was based around that.
actually one thing I have to say, if there are many, there's like, if you take the two Avatar shows, the first part is like the first Avatar show, is basically the first half is like The Last Airbender, and the second half is like Legend of Korra. But rather than that, it's the same cast all the way through, rather than the change of cast. But it's still kind of, they still reuse ideas from Gurren Lagann, and trust me, there's lots of Gurren Lagann references everywhere in anime. I mean, it's probably one of the most influential animes. I mean, it's just, it has inspired so much, and I mean, I even wear the spiral drill amulet, which I got at Fanime. I wear that on a normal basis, and I even got a Gurren. While I was once getting food, a person quoted from Gurren Lagann. It's that well known.
Wow.
Anyways, so next I will talk about two well-known animes that I do not like: One Piece and Fairy Tail. One Piece... where do I begin? It's an over-the-top anime that basically, it's about pirates surfing around the ocean. Then you tack on Japanese influence onto that, and it goes beyond what you need to... what is just... and it's also infamous because 4Kids, who dubbed Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, the One Piece dub is known to be one of the worst dubs in all of existence.
Wow.
So, but I mean, and I mean, which is why other good companies such as Funimation are like dubbing the actual good anime, which I'm happy based on that. I mean, 4Kids, they kind of did good somewhat on the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs, but from what I heard, they did horrible on the One Piece dub. In fact, so much that Funimation, another one, had to redo the dub.
So it appears to be a better sub-anime than dub.
Well, even so, it's not some... I mean, I personally read the manga, and I found that it just wasn't for me. It just, no. And it would usually just go up onto random tangents way too often, and the storyline was just...
Plus the concept doesn't
okay,
really
next,
help.
Fairy Tail. Yes, next, Fairy Tail. I never quite understood what the point of Fairy Tail was. It's a very weird anime. Basically, it's where a bunch of people are like in the guild type thing, and they like go on adventures and try and like fight monsters, dragons. It's basically like general fantasy. However, it's also famous for having for its opening theme featuring flute. It's probably like this. I mean, the opening themes are just... it's... well, I'm not gonna dwell on that. Anyways, the reason why I personally dislike Fairy Tail even though I haven't watched it or not really extremely familiar with it, is because this one person I know from my school overhyped it so much it soured my view towards Fairy Tail forever. Which people can do that. I will say that. If you like straight up action, Gurren Lagann and Fairy Tail are probably both for you, but personally I prefer Gurren Lagann a lot more because there's a lot more philosophical stuff in Gurren Lagann than there is in Fairy Tail, and Gurren Lagann fulfilled me on a much. I do think even if I was gonna watch Fairy Tail, that Gurren Lagann would still be a much more fulfilling watch. So now that I've gone through that, let's go on to the obscure ones.
Yay!
And I'm picking 3 of my favorites: Yumikuri Meri, which Yumikuri means Dream Eater. Kurosutsuji, which translates into Black Butler, and a very new one known as Hayori Narko-san. Okay, first, Dream Eater Mary. It's a very short series that, I mean, it's very open-ended and very... It's definitely quite an interesting watch. The anime only has like 13 episodes, and the manga has around 40 chapters. And personally, I'm a fan of both. I mean, Yumikuri Meri is what got me back into anime after a small hiatus from it, or lack of determination to get into it. And basically, the idea is these creatures known as Muma, or dream demons, are trying to take over humans through their dreams, to take over reality. So this one dream demon who somehow got a human body, it's still not known how she got it, known as Mary Nightmare, she fights against these dream demons, and unlike most other dream demons, which normally when a dream demon dies or is defeated, they dissolve and the human's dreams go along with them, causing a really bad condition known as sudden dream loss. But Mary's able to send them back without dream loss occurring, which is a very good ability to have. And of course, then she's accompanied by a human, Yumeji Fujiwara, who he basically has, one, the power to see if a person's infected by a dream demon or not. Two, he is able to enter a dream realm, or a quote-unquote daydream, without needing a dream demon already inside of him. And three, he can imitate the abilities of past dream demons that he has faced. So as for a human, he's quite a bit more powerful. And overall, it's a good watch/read, though it can get a bit confusing if you're not familiar with like the plain as day rules of the fandom. If you're not familiar with how the things work in there and like how the characters are, it can get confusing at times. And they do pull some things out of their ass sometimes. Next, I doubt you would have anything to say about that.
No, I probably will be pretty silent for these obscure ones because I didn't even hear about, or I didn't even know they existed until this morning. And I've seen them, like, a total of 0 times, so I'm probably going to be pretty silent.
Okay. Next is Kuroshichi Black Butler, which it's, even for an obscure one, it's a very popular anime. I mean, if it had a few more fans, it would be in the mainstream column, but it's not as overly well known as the mainstream ones are, even though it's a very good anime. Basically, the idea is, in Victorian England, this child of the Phantom Hive household known as CL Phantom Hive, he makes a contract with the demon known as Sebastian Michaelis, or Michaelis, whatever. He makes a contract with it after the rest of his family is killed and he has to take over the family business. So he makes a contract with Sebastian so that he can get revenge on those who shamed his family name. And the manga is still running and has some pretty fulfilling arcs that are not shown in the anime. After 2 seasons, they pulled a makeshift ending to the series out of their ass. Which, for those of you who haven't watched it yet, I'm not going to spoil it, but I can say it was probably the one thing that could have happened that basically screws over the rest of the series and makes it so that even if they wanted to make a 3rd season, it'd be extremely hard to justify it. And even at the beginning of the 1st season, it seemed like it was ending because CL got his revenge. But then Alois Trancy and his demon butler Claude came into the picture, thus making a whole 12 seasons of nonsense occur. Well, nonsense, even though personally I like the character of Alois Trancy since he has more depth as a character than CL does. But I mean, many people don't like Alois because he is very whiny and very contrasting to CL. But then there are, of course, also Shinigami in that, which they wield death scythes that can collect souls and cause cinematic records to occur. And also, Kuroshichi, I should note, it has a 24 episode first season, 12 episodes second season, 2 musicals, and 60 plus chapters of manga. So it's pretty in depth and also many fan fiction. A lot of fan fiction. Fan fiction up the wazoo. And again, it's just a few steps away from being a mainstream anime. But then the last one, it's an anime that just finished airing. It just finished airing, I think, in June. That's when I think it finished airing. It began March or April and finished in June. And it's known as Hayore Nyarko-san. And it's kind of like a remake of a bunch of Flash anime that occurred before. That's in turn based off of a light novel, which a light novel is basically it's technically like a manga, but it's more in novel form rather than comic form. So basically the idea behind it is anthropomorphized versions of creatures from the H.P. Lovecraft mythos, such as Nyarlathotep, Cthulhu, and Hastur, as well as Cthulhu, and various other ones appear and basically like harass this normal young teenage boy, and Yasaka Mahiro. And it's a very hilarious anime. I mean, it parodies everything anime-wise. It's like an anime specifically made for otakus. I mean, there's so much references from other animes in there that me and a friend actually went through the episodes, seeing how much references, and like in one episode they made 7 different references. There's Pokemon references, Kuroshishi references, I think like the occasional Gurren Lagann reference. There's like reference to anything and everything, and I mean, it's, even though it delivered from beginning to end. I mean, even though it was a parody anime, it was hilarious. And I mean, it's only like 12 episodes, but each episode was equally satisfying, and the ending was probably it was the ending that all anime endings should be based on. Like every character like every crucial character was like in the ending fight helping win the battle. And of course, I should also note, since a lot of there's a lot of yaoi, yuri, and a lot of ecchi references, even though it's PG-13, which is very, and there's also references to games and novels. It's like borderline between mature and PG-13. In fact, I don't even know what rating that should even technically be. I mean, there's so much innuendos in there, even though it's PG-13. It's so great. And as you may see, I'm being quite the fanboy over it. But yes, Higher Naruto-san, however, if you are looking for more serious anime, not for you. No. But if you're looking to be entertained by anime, it's definitely for you. And basically, if you're familiar with a lot of other anime, it's also definitely for a person who would like, who would want to watch it. And it's definitely for those who are within the otaku culture, it's definitely worth a watch. Though I have to say, the hentai I have found on Tumblr was interesting. Anyways, so can I fit one last thing in? It's not technically an anime, but it's worth mentioning.
Sure.
I'm going to talk about the slight subculture of the Vocaloids. It's connected to the anime manga cultures, but it's technically like the music aspect of it. And basically the idea is it's synthesized voices that basically they're given different characters, and they bear a lot of similarities to a few people within like American pop music, like Hatsune Miku, like most famous of the Vocaloids. Her music can be compared to like a fusion of like Lady Gaga and Katy Perry. But another thing I may want to know, even though I'm making comparisons to American pop musicians, the Vocaloids outshine the musicians quality-wise for the most part, though they go on both ends of the spectrum, which I'm not gonna go to. But anyways, my favorite Vocaloids are probably Rin and Len Kagami, which Len Kagami is very similar to Justin Bieber. In fact, Justin Bieber could have been a Len Kagamine clone, but he was overhyped. He was, of course, overhyped in the wrong way, whereas Len was actually given quality songs that go in multiple directions that are actually good. I mean, for every song that's and also another thing that Justin Bieber doesn't have that Len has, a female counterpart that sometimes sings duets with him, which I'm gonna compare Ren Len's song Juvenile to Justin Bieber's Baby. Juvenile, it has a lot of the aspects of an English pop song, but they put more quality into the lyrics. Whereas, and a vocal, and Len rapping is a lot better overall than most of the, than like a possible than Justin Bieber even getting close to rapping. It's just, I mean, and the reason why I compare these two is because if you look at the lyrics of Juvenile and listen closely, one, unlike most of the stuff Len is rapping here, and two, the parts that he says in English, which there are English parts, he actually, it's almost like it's the Japanese trying to make a better English pop song in Japanese. Because, like, he dropped very common tropes like shawty near the end and various other things in that. However, one thing I also wanted to compare Juvenile as opposed to the more Vocaloid-esque counterpart, Adolescence. Whereas Juvenile is more comparable to English pop music, I see Adolescence representing Ren Len's relationship, which, another one thing I want to note, they're not, even though some people may think they're twins, they're mirror images, meaning it's very open-ended. They can be twins, they can be lovers, they can be whatever the heck you want them to be. Which makes them awesome for a lot of things. And also another reason I mentioned the Vocaloids, Vocaloid music has probably affected, I mean, if people were more open-minded and allowed Vocaloid music to affect pop music, I mean, the Vocaloid music could be about as influential, if not more influential, than the Beatles. It's just, they have so much to offer. I mean, from songs, from making general sugar pop barrow songs like Juvenile to even the philosophical songs like Shinseki, aka New Millennium, and the heart-wrenching duo songs of Prisoner and Paper Airplanes, which the Vocaloids touch on topics that no one in normal pop music at this point wants to touch. Like, I don't know how to really get... I think I've pretty much said enough, unless you want me to cover more on that for some reason.
There's just one thing I think we should cover before we go. Basically, people were probably expecting us to talk about this because it's sort of the big anime right now. You did mention it earlier, The Legend of Korra. What are your opinions on that? Just quickly.
Actually, the thing is, the Avatar thing, both Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, they're done in anime style, but they're Western. I mean, they're kind of part of the anime. I mean, it's kind of like a hybrid thing. It's technically not anime since it's made by Western people, which one thing I may want to note is anime by definition is made by Japanese people. since Legend of Korra is an American-made thing, even though it's technically in the anime style ish, it's technically a Western animation type thing and technically a cartoon. Another thing I might want to know is it doesn't take as much Japanese influences, which it takes more influence from like Chinese culture. So that's another reason why it's technically not anime, because it's not as overall Japanese as it could possibly be. And personally, I watched a bit of Legend of Korra, but as soon as I saw Mon as a writer, he was definitely way too overpowered for his setting. I mean, to be able to take away people... I mean, personally, in a setting where bending is, like, essential, even though I can see why there are people that are against bending, I mean, as opposed to, like, the anti-spiral of Gurren Lagann, the anti-spiral didn't take away a person's ability to use spiral power, whereas anti-benders are able to take away a person's bending, whether it be temporarily or permanently. It's just, he just seemed way too over the top for his certain setting, and he just completely frustrated me. Which is why I actually liked the Last Airbender series a lot more. I mean, Last Airbender series, it is probably another one of the reasons why I got back into anime. And also another thing I will point out, I'm not going to go into depth about it, is another subculture is the abridged series subcultures, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, Dragon Ball Z Abridged. There's even an Avatar Last Airbender Abridged. It's a big subculture of the whole anime idea, and basically gives the up-and-coming voice actors a chance to practice their skills, which makes things interesting.
Yep. Well, I think that's...
And I think that is... And if you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and either me or Double will try and answer them. And yeah, I think that's all we needed to cover.
Yep. Yay for a series I try to keep around 10 minutes, becoming 42 minutes. Well, bye guys.
Bye.